Alrighty, everyone. We are going to first start by going to Blackboard because I have some files there that I need you to get before we do anything today. So, going to today's learning plan in Blackboard, which will apparently take me another 5 minutes. There we go. Very impatient today.
I'll start printing at like 8:30.
Learning plan 6.
Whichever one is the last one open should be correct. Or not, to tell you the truth. It's not. You're right. It's 7. And it's not open?
Oh, no, I got it.
Okay.
It wasn't open before.
Okay.
It needed to be refreshed.
I love it. It's fun.
All right. So in Learning Plan 7, a couple things. Simplified HTML skeleton is just a visual picture. It's not an actual file. So this is the basic, easy part of a document. I don't think we're going to need this today. You might have it still in your handouts anyway, but the other documents that I put in here, we're going to open those. So there's a folder called Chapter Files Needed This Week, and I have zipped files of Chapter 4, 5, and 6. So if you would download those, all 3 of them. And then if you're working in here on a PC, we obviously have to unzip them. If you happen to work on a Mac, once you click on it, the Macs do the unzipping for you. But if you click on Chapter 4, the download down here, and highlight, Chapter 4 in this thing, we then need to click the Extract button up here in case you haven't done this lately. And that will extract the files that we can actually look at. Extract all. It's going to go into my downloads folder called Chapter 4. That's fine. And there it is. And now we can actually use that. So for each one of those, note the difference. This is the extracted file. So up here it looks like a normal folder. The compressed one still has that little zipper in it up here. So, and they won't work if they're zipped. You have to unzip all of them. So Chapter 5, extract all. And then grab Chapter 6, highlight that, and extract all as well. So the reason we're grabbing these is it's some of the starting files, so we don't have to type in all of that intro code, and probably more importantly, it's in pictures, and we're going to be putting pictures in today. So I wanted you to have access to the pictures. We won't be using everything in there, but we will be using quite a bit of it. All right, so hopefully everybody has that accomplished. Just working on it. All right, we are now in Blackboard. I'm going to give you guys in person several handouts today, but if you ever lose them or need them, the handout is right here on Blackboard as well. It's one of them, this is a PowerPoint, and then this is the actual handout that I'm going to be giving you in class. So if you forget it, you do have access to it on Blackboard. So I will hand that out right now. All right, so what we're going to cover today is CSS, Cascading Style Sheets. And I've been telling you guys all along that everything we've done so far, the HTML code, is like the bones of the website. It's the actual details, the words, the navigation, the footer. And how you dress it up or make it look different is the CSS. That's the styling that we apply to it later. So I told you the reason that we were doing headers, nav, main, and footers is so that later we could tell, if you're inside the footer, I want you to be, hot pink text on a red background or something horrible like that. But you could actually say that with CSS. So what we're going to look at today is how CSS works and the different ways that you can use it. We're going to cover basic parts of 3 chapters in this book. I'm not doing the chapter start to finish, obviously. I'm going to try to give you guys what I think is important for your overall understanding, and knowing a little bit about CSS is really important. So we're going to learn the purpose of them, the advantages, how to configure color. So all these sites we've been working on so far that are pretty boring and ugly, we're going to give them some color today. And then we're going to learn how to do inline styles, embedded, and external style sheets. That's the cascade. And then we're going to learn how to test it for validation. So remember your HTML, if you want, you can upload it to that validator site and it'll show you if you have errors. Same thing for CSS. There's a place that you can upload for that. So let me show you what CSS can do. Zen Garden, of course, that's not going to work as a link. But all right, so this is a site called CSS Zen Garden, and it's meant to showcase what CSS can do. So this is the like heading 1 or whatever they've coded the name of it, and the subheading. This is probably everything that they put in a header. This is the main part. Over here is probably the navigation. All these words are going to stay constant. Everything in this body copy is constant from site to site that I'm going to show you. And the footer is constant. But what changes is how they dressed it up. So here's mid-century modern. The HTML of this page, let's see if I can see it. This is the HTML of this page. This does not change one bit from every site I'm about to show you. None of this changes. The only thing that changes is they've linked it to a CSS style sheet, and so it tells it how to get dressed up and how to look. Okay? So this does not change. Here's the mid-century modern version. This is their header. These are the graphics they put in. Here's what they did with their navigation. So we can go to the next one. This is the site that somebody else built with that exact same HTML file, but a different style sheet attached to it. Oops, I went to somebody's website. Didn't mean to do that. Here's another one. So the beauty of CSS design, the road to enlightenment, all this lettering is always the same. So can you see how CSS completely changes something? The background images, the fonts that are used, how the page works, if it scrolls over a background or if the background moves with it, if it stays permanent, it goes with it. And if you wanted to do this yourself, all of these pages you can download the HTML file that they all work with, and then a blank CSS file that you would then fill in with your own look. The rest of them go. Oh, here they are. Same thing. So the power of this is, if your client, say this is a company, the beauty of CSS design is a company, all of the details about their company, all the text, all the links, all the PDFs, everything, that always stays the same. But if they want a different look, you can change it just with CSS. And if they hate it, you can change it tomorrow with another one. And if they hate that or they want to go back to what they started with, you can link it to that original CSS sheet and it goes back to how it used to look. If they want one for the holiday season, you guys ever been to a website that kind of changes seasonally, like their background changes a little bit? That's just with CSS. They haven't redone their whole website. They're just telling it to be a different background. And maybe if it's blues and snowing, they do different colored text on their page because of that. All right. So that is what CSS looks like. So basically what it is it's style sheets. And in desktop publishing, and even in Word, you guys use kind of style sheets, right? Have you guys ever done that? I know you have, admins especially, where you go in and you pick one of those themes and the headlines are all one way and the main bullet points are all one way. That's a theme or a style, right? Marketing, same thing. You guys have used, or like think about PowerPoint too. You pick different themes to make your PowerPoint look different, right? But the words that you typed in there don't change. It's just the look that changes. That's exactly what this is. So style sheets apply typographical styles and spacing on printed material. That's like in Word or PowerPoint, something like that. CSS basically does the same thing and more for web developers. And the cool thing is that it's cross-platform. So your site's going to work on Macs and PCs. It's going to work on Androids. It's going to work on iPads, whatever. So it's really quite powerful. So why it's called, that's the next one, never mind. So the advantages of Style Sheet CSS is that, think about this. What if you went in, because you can go in line, and we're going to do that today, and tell your headline, for example, to be navy blue, 18-point Arial type. You can write that right in the HTML code, and it'll happen. But what happens if you have 700 pages, and you have to type that in on a headline on 700 pages? And then your client says, make it red. Do you see where that's not cool? However, if you had a style sheet that said all heading ones should be 18-point navy blue Arial, and it goes and looks for that rule, it's done. And then if you change it to say, oh, it should be red, and you hit update, it changes over all 700 pages on your website, okay? So style is separate from structure. Like I showed you in that Zen garden, the structure of that page didn't change, but the look did. The styles themselves can be stored in a separate document, a style sheet, and then linked to your web page. And because of that, your pages, your documents, are potentially much smaller. So you have one style sheet that applies to 700 pages. And those 700 pages are just the basic HTML on each page. You don't need to write in directions for how to stylize it page by page. And obviously easier site maintenance. So if your background, if in your header you have a photograph that's a winter scene, and that's been up since January, and now your client says, let's put a spring picture in the header instead. Again, if you have 700 pages and you did it line by line within the HTML, you'd have to go update 700 pages in your HTML. Versus if you have a style sheet, you go in and you say the image that should be used in the header is now spring.jpg, and it instantly updates across all the pages. Does that make sense? Okay. It's still not uniformly supported by all browsers, but it is rapidly becoming the case. And it's actually very, very, very supported now. But things that are supported universally across all browsers are what we would learn about and what you would learn about in all classes here if you took more classes on this topic. So there are different sheets. There are inline styles, which we actually write right in the HTML document. Line by line, we tell it something. There's embedded styles, external, and imported. And we're going to talk about 3 of those. Imported is pretty similar to external. This is why it's called a cascading style sheet. So when the web browser loads your page, the first thing it does is it loads it with the browser defaults. Right now, that's all we have going on in anything we've done, like Trillium or any of your homework, right? There's nothing saying what font it should be, how big, any color, nothing, right? So the browser default is what happens. So it turns it into Times New Roman, all heading ones are 18 point, whatever. Next thing it looks for is, are there any external style sheets? That's the style sheet that stands alone and applies to all the pages. If that exists, all those rules get applied. Then it looks for, is there an embedded style? That's one that is embedded on just one page, for example, that's different from here. So I want my website, all 700 pages, to look the same, except for my sale page. On my sale page, I want it to be all reds and yellows for some reason. Let's just say that. So to override the rules that we have for the 700 pages, on that one particular page, or 3 or 5, we embed style on the page, and it applies to the whole page. So if there's embedded styles, those rules kick in. Then it goes and it looks at the actual HTML. And if there's inline styles, so if it's reading the HTML along and all of a sudden it says, oh my gosh, font should be something else, that will override any of the rules up here. And then the last one are the little literal HTML attributes. So like a heading 1, rule, or whatever. So it always looks for, it applies whatever style is the highest on the list if none others below it exist. So that's how it figures it out. So we're going to be writing some CSS code, and it's different from HTML. We use Notepad++, just like we do already. But the way we tell the rules are, or the way we type it in is a little different. So we start with rules, And then we have a selector and a declaration. Don't worry about that too much because the way I'm going to explain it to you I think makes more sense. So the selector is the first thing. So body. You guys know we have body tags, right? What's inside the body tags?
Content.
Hmm?
Content.
Literally everything we see on the web page is in the body tags, right? It's the header, it's the nav, it's the content, it's the footer, it's anything that's visible. The stuff that's in the head tags is just what search engines see, right? So the body, it says anything that's in the body. What's the rule? Well, wherever we want the color to be applied a blue. So this will put a blue background on everything. So when we load our page that we've done so far, instead of having a white background, it would be blue now. So this is how we write these. We go down and we can have multiple rules. We can just keep writing them out, and whatever they are inside curly braces applies to the body. Then we go on to our next thing, and we would say heading 1, curly bracket. What kind of rule do we want for heading 1? Well, we want the font to be Arial. So we would do font, Arial. And that would make every heading 1 be an Arial font. So that's how we're going to write CSS syntax. So in the handout I gave you, page 106 and 7 are those first 2 pages. And we're going to start just looking at that and kind of working through it. So if you wanted to configure a web page that had blue text and a yellow background. So color, I want you to think of as being the text, not the background, sorry. Color is the color. I get that this thing works that way. Sorry. Move along, little doggy. What am I doing wrong?
Are you going backwards?
So background color, I misspoke earlier. Background color is the color of the background of the page. That makes sense. Color, if you want to pretend that that actually says foreground color, that's actually the text color. It's a little confusing. Whenever you see color, that's the color of the text. So this would tell me that the pages that we've done so far, think about the one that you turned in that was your name and then the days of the week and a quote, all that. It was on a white background, right? If you applied these 2 rules to it, it would have a yellow background and blue text, just like that. The other ways that you can write color are with hexadecimal codes. And that's the sheet that I gave you has those really, really small underneath them. But hex codes are the hashtag and then 6 letters and numbers. So if you look down at the very bottom, white is hashtag FFFFFF. Black is hashtag 000000. We're going to look in a minute at other ways of writing color, but the 6-digit hexadecimal number is what will give you a color for sure. So if you wanted this color lilac, for example, CCCFF, that would give you that particular color. The reason these are called web-safe colors is because they will look correct on all browsers, on Macs and PCs, whereas other colors don't always look the same on different Macs and PCs. So here are different ways that we can name the color red. You can, for basic colors like red, blue, black, white, you can actually call them by their name and it will work. It understands that. But what if you're thinking of more like a red-orange? That's a specific color on that sheet that you would need to code. The hexadecimal version for red is FF0000. And whenever the pairs are doubled up like that, you can also do a shorthand version of just one each. So 1F, 1010, that's also. These are only used with web-safe colors. So if you have to stick to that sheet to do this shorthand version. Another way of doing it is defining it by RGB, red, green, and blue, which are the 3 light sources of color on monitors and screens. And it's 255 of red, 0 green, 0 blue. That's something graphic designers use a lot. These are more, almost everything you see is going to be up here. There is another way of naming it with a decimal color value that includes opacity. So all red, no green, no blue, and a 0.5% opacity on the red. So it'd be more of a see-through red. And then this last one is HSL, which is hue, saturation, lightness. Not really supported too much yet, but hue 0, saturation 100%, and lightness 50%. So the top 2 or 3 are the ones that we're really going to use. Hexadecimal colors is what we're going to use today to get color in our documents. So an inline style, that's the one where you write right along in your code. And that's where you say, all of a sudden, whatever is here, I want it to be a certain way. So we've typed in heading 1. This is displayed as a red heading, and heading 1. To actually make it red, we have to do something inline that says style equals, and then the quotation marks, color equals, and then the hashtag hex code. That would make just that one singular heading 1 appear red. It wouldn't do any other ones on the page. Okay, bless you. This is only to the specific element. So maybe on your page, anything that's a heading 3 is something like that you're trying to emphasize every now and then, just a couple of words. You want those to be bigger and bold. Maybe just one time on that page, you want one of them to be red. You don't want to apply the rule to all the heading 3s on that page, just that one instance. That's where you would do an inline style. All right, so here's where we're seeing it. H1 style, color, F000, that's red. And then if we said background color is hashtag CCCCC, that's this light gray, this is how this would show up. Okay, so this is just making the heading text red. This is making it red with a background color of gray. Just adding one more rule inside that style attribute. All right, let's bump to page 108 and 109 in the book, or in your handout. And, oh, you could. Yep. All right. And we need to have Notepad++ opened to go today, so make sure that you have that piece of software ready to go. And let's see. Do you guys still have in your homework file, let's see if we can find that, in File Open, you should have on your desktop still a folder called Homework, and we either have a starting file or something called Index. I'm not sure which is which. Starting file, at least is the name of mine, that has those basic bones. So it already has the doc type, the HTML, the head, and the body filled in for us. Do you guys all have that file? No? What do you have in that homework folder?
Index.
Index.
Open Index, and let me know what it looks like.
Name, days of the week.
Chapter 2.
Okay, so that's what you did your homework on, that stuff? Okay, so to clean it up, to get back to this starting point, all you guys have to do is whatever's in the body, highlight it and delete it out. And then we'll change the title up here in just a second. Everything else should be the same. So just clean that file up so that it matches the one I have on the screen here. And for the title, if you have one there, we're going to change it to be Inline CSS Example. And then down in the body, we're going to type in the information you see on the top of page 109. So let's just start. Actually, the body tag is already there. But what we need to do is add a style declaration to the body tag. And we do that by adding more information about it right after the Y in body, but before the tag closes. So make a space, and we're going to start typing some information right there. We're going to say style equals, so we're writing an inline style. Whoops. Style equals, and then in quotes, we're going to tell it to be the background color with a hyphen between the two, background hyphen color, and then a colon, and the actual hex code that we want, which is hashtag F5, 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 and then use a semicolon to separate that rule from the next rule that we're going to write. So semicolon, and then color, which is actually the color of the text. So color colon, hashtag 008080. And end with another semicolon. The reason that it's best practice, even though we're done writing rules, the reason that we added that next semicolon is kind of a best practice technique, because what if you go back and add another rule? You're going to need it there, and you might forget to put it there if you just add the next rule. So end with a semicolon also. So that's telling our body style how to look. And the closing tag stays as is. We don't need to do anything different with that. And we need a closing quotation mark. I was wondering why that didn't light up. So at the end of all that, your two background rules, or two style rules, have to be enclosed in quotation marks. So finish with a quotation mark before your closing caret as well. So that's your body tag. We've just added some rules to it. Now inside our body, we're going to have a heading 1. So let's just do normal heading 1 tags. And then we're going to stylize it from there. So your opening and closing heading 1 tags are right there. And the words inside of there are going to be inline CSS. So this is how it would have looked last week if we were making it. It would have been just a basic H1. Now we want to stylize this particular heading 1. So in that opening tag, we're going to write style equals, and then in quotes, background hyphen color, colon, hashtag 008080, semicolon, and then color, which is your text color, colon, hashtag F5, 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 another semicolon, and then finish it with the quote. So the two rules are inside of quotation marks.
Do we have to have the same thing in our closing?
Your same thing in what?
Like from the style and on, do we have to have that in our body closing?
No, you only open it in the opening tag.
Okay.
You give the rule in the opening tag, and then the closing tag stays alone.
Okay.
Stays as was. That's a great question. So our heading 1, we added the style just to that opening tag. The heading 1 closing tag stays as is. And then they want us to write a quick paragraph. So opening P tag, this paragraph inherits the styles applied to the body tag, period. This will make sense in just a minute. Okay. So inside the two body tags, that's everything we see on our page. And therefore, everything on the page has a background color of whatever this is and a text color of the other one. Then, when we got to the heading 1, we reversed those colors. You can see they're opposite. So the background color is the opposite that it was before. And then it closes out when the heading 1 stops. Save this file and go ahead and look at it in Chrome. Shrink this down. So we now know that F5, F5, F5 is kind of a grayish color. It's not white, it's kind of a grayish color. That's what our background color of this whole document is, because that's what's applied to the body. The color, text color, is this 8080, and that is turquoise. When we get to our heading 1, which is the words inline text, we told that to have a background color of the turquoise and have a text color of that light gray. So anything in the body style is going to be following these overall rules unless it's told something different, like the heading 1 was told something different. So let's just go back quickly. And, well, let's give the paragraph a style first. Let's go back into our text. And The paragraph right now has no style applied to it. Let's add a style to that in the opening p tag. So style equals, and then in quotes, color, colon, hashtag 333333, end quote. So that applied a different color to the paragraph. And by saving and running that in Chrome, we can see that it's more of a black color or dark gray. So even though the body style said that the text should be this color, this 8080, it was overridden by the inline style for the paragraph when it got to that. So this is a different rule. Let's try this with just colors by words to see a little bit, maybe make it a little bit easier. So at the first one, that's the body style, let's do a background color of red, just the words red. And let's do a text color of white. And then when we get to the heading 1, let's just reverse those two. So now the background color is white and the text color is red. And then this other one, let's make that yellow. Just change those out to words that you understand instead of hex codes. And we see it again. So inline style is style that you write right in the HTML document. If you have a 1-page, 3-page website, fine, go ahead and do this. But imagine, like I said, if you have a 700-page document and you have to change every single inline incident on every single 700 pages, it would be ridiculous. You would not do that, right? It'd be way overwhelming. All right. So inline is the first version that we looked at. The next one we're going to look at is the embedded style. And that applies to the whole web page. You don't have to do it line by line. In this case, every time you hit a heading 1 on your web page, you would have to stylize it to be red if that's what you wanted. And if you had 70 heading 1s on that page, you would have to write that code 70 times every time it came up. Much easier would be an embedded style sheet on that particular page, saying on this page only, every time you hit a heading 1, make it red. And that one style rule we put up in that head section. And remember, that's the part that the human doesn't see, the browser, or people don't see, or visitors don't see. It's only what the browser and the search engine see. So that's where we would put that. So up in the head section, we would use a tag that's called style, and then we would start writing the rules with these curly braces like I mentioned earlier. An embedded style applies to that one page only. So if you had 700 pages, it would only apply to that one page. You could copy and paste those rules for multiple pages, but again, maybe if 5 of the 700 you wanted to look a different way, that's how you would do it. The style declarations, so the rules for what style you're applying are in between an opening and a closing style tag. And we're just going to look at this and give this a practice too. So this is what it would look like. Up at the top of your document, if you still have your notepad open, you're going to see the head. And so far we have the title. We have inline CSS probably right now in ours. And the character set of UTF-8. This is where we would put opening and closing style tags, and then inside of that we would write any and all rules that should be applied to that one page. So that Trillium site that we've been working on. So the body selector, if you use a style for body, remember that's everything that the human sees, right? Everything visible on your page. Whatever these rules are, they are like the universal style for the whole page. So basically, I'm going to use this font in general on this page, and I want my page background to be light blue. Those are kind of universal rules. Then, anything after that will override it. So, except when you get to a heading 1, I want those to be on a yellow background. Except when you get to a heading 2, I don't want that baby blue background anymore, I want a dark blue background. So this is how you write your style. Body is the basic overall one, everything else overrides the body style. So, Trillium. We're going to practice with our trillium. So go back to Notepad, and we're going to do a file open, and you're going to navigate to the file on your desktop that's called Trillium that we've made before. And we're going to open our index page. Make sure we're doing that. Yep. Open. So this is telling us to go get different files, that book files. We don't need to. We've already got this one built. So if you guys remember, we typed this in a week or two ago. And this is your Trillium media design, and it looks like this. So what we see here is the browser defaults. A heading 1 is in this font, this size. Our navigation only has color because those are hyperlinks that we visited. They worked. We have made all 3 pages. Heading 2 looks like this. Heading 2 looks like this. And the footer is in small italics. So right now it's very basic and plain and kind of boring, to be honest. So with just a little bit of style applied to this page in an embedded style sheet, we're going to change it. So in our head section, so up here, after the character set, we are going to do an opening style tag, and we're going to space down a few lines, and we're going to close out our style to make sure we do not forget. Whoops, we got to spell it right though. So there's my 2 opening and closing style tags. Now what I'm going to do is inside of them, I'm going to write rules for how I want things to behave on this page. So the first thing you start with is the selector, or what do you want these rules to apply to? What do you want to target? So the first thing we're targeting is body. So anything in the body tags, you write body, space, and then you make a curly brace, which is shift and that left bracket. You got to get the curly brace. If Notepad++ is what you're using, you're going to get the closing brace automatically generated for you, which is nice. And now we're going to write our rules in here. Background color, colon, and then what it should be, hashtag E6FA, semicolon. Now you can write these all in a line left to right, but for cleanliness and proofreading, I like to put mine where I can actually see them. I like to stack them. And then color, colon, hashtag 191.970, semicolon. Again, that last semicolon is just for safety, because if you decide to add a rule, when you come back, you're going to hit enter and keep typing, and you don't want to forget that. So there is our first declaration. Anything that's in between our body tags should have this background color and this text color. Let's save and run in Chrome, and we can see what we just did. So the background color is this light blue, and our text color looks to be kind of a dark blue. Everybody get that to work?
Nope.
Okay.
All my text disappeared.
Yeah, mine too.
All of your text disappeared.
Yep.
It's just like blue.
I don't know. All I did was add this.
Everything we're doing is up in the head section. Make sure of that. It's not in the body, and it's between 2 style tags. Anybody else?
That's what I did.
Oh, I know. I forgot to close it.
Style spelled wrong.
Yeah, that might work.
This is a huge, huge perk of Notepad that I want you guys to always remember, even if you never ever do this again in your life and you hate it. Notepad++ is cool because when you click on an opening tag, it should highlight in purple and the closing tag should highlight. If that doesn't happen, you might have a typo like this. See how I'm clicking on STLE and it's not working? That's because I forgot the letter Y. It was a typo, or I forgot the end bracket or something like that. So make sure when you're proofing, the quickest thing, and this is how I actually check your homework, I just go in here and I click on these, and the other one should light up. And if it doesn't, there's a problem. header, H1. They just keep lighting up, the opening and closing tags. Does that make sense? Okay. So we added the first style rule. Let's go down and add another one. We want a special rule for our heading 1. So H1, and then curly brace. Here are the rules to apply to our heading 1s. Background color of our heading 1s, colon, should be hashtag 191970, semicolon. And the color, the text color of our heading 1s should be hashtag E6FA, semicolon. So reverse those two out from what the background was, or the body rule. Save and run in Chrome. And we can see we only have one heading 1 on this page. It's Trillium Media Design up here. And we gave it a rule that said it should have that dark blue background color and this light blue as our text color. Then we're going to give a rule. We're going to move down a line and we're going to give a rule to our heading 2s. So H2, curly brace. The rule for heading 2s is background color should be hashtag AEAED4. Somebody else, bingo. And the text color, which is just color, should be hashtag 191970, semicolon. And if you coded that incorrectly, this is what it should look like. Everybody doing okay? So let's just go down into the actual body, the part of our page that we see. So we have Trillium Media Design, we have our navigation, we have those headings. Let's go down to, after this last paragraph, our expert designers, let's hit return. And just to prove that this is going to work to anything on here, I want you to make a new heading 1 and have it be your name. And then I want you to make a new heading 2 and have it say hello. So these two things should be stylized according to the rules we gave heading 1s and heading 2s. And they are. So already this embedded style sheet is way easier than doing it line by line. Every time you hit a heading 1, having to write your rules there, right? Inline styles are pretty much never, ever, ever, ever used unless you want one word on a page to look different than all the other rules let it be. That's when you override it with an inline style. Otherwise, do not use them. They are so much work. Did you guys get this to work?
I only got the Trillium in my name. I didn't get it.
Click on your code and make sure that all your closing and opening.
I think I'm missing a number.
Okay. It's AEAED4.
No,
191970. 191970.
yeah.
E6FA. Did you prove it?
Yeah, close. Oh, look at this.
Neither one of them, the H2s didn't work, so let's the issues there. Let's go back.
Those are trillion
Ground, we got the R ground.
That's the H1 heading.
Oh,
Okay, did you do
Oh, there you go. Oh, there it is.
who's got this?
little typos will throw everything
There
off.
you go.
Yep.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay. Back to
know why my
No, that's your head. That's what the browser sees. Your button is
now
down
the
here.
color shows up in the
You don't have a
top.
closing bracket on each one.
Okay.
There's right here.
Oh, you don't have semicolon.
Semicolon,
Oh, you
semicolon.
okay.
And
You
then
see it
this
has
has to
space.
be opening period, backslash,
Yeah.
H1.
Oh, you didn't have the hashtag.
On those, yeah. My head is freaking console. I can't do this today, guys.
Save the file. Okay, so your color
I can't do this today.
Type color, so go back to code.
Let me rip out my console. It hurts so bad. I can't do this.
You're gonna go remove it? I'll rest it.
No, I just want to rip it out right
But on the
now.
other top,
I don't
yeah,
need to.
and
I'll
up
just take
here,
that.
it should be color colon.
Alondra, I volunteer you.
Colon, and then the answer type.
Take out my
Yeah.
console. It hurts so bad. I can't do this
Should, unless
today.
there's a typo. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, go ahead and take out those H1, H2s that we just put in for testing, your name and hello. You're not gonna use that after all. Okay, and save the file. All right. So, having that internal style sheet on one page makes sense if you have a 1-page or a 3-page website, maybe. But very few people have 1 to 3-page websites, right? Let's pretend you're gonna have even it's a 10-page website. Anytime you change it, do you really want to have to go and update it on 10 pages at the top of 10 pages? No, because something can go wrong. So, external style sheets are the way to go. That's one style sheet named .css that you save in that same folder that your entire website is in. So if we do one for Trillium, we're going to put that one file in the Trillium folder along with our index, contact us, and services page. Okay, there'll be 4 files inside that folder. And then we're going to write one line of code at the top of each page that says, hey, I have an external style sheet, go find it, here's the name of it. And you put the name of it in, and it knows to go look in that same folder, and it knows to apply those rules to everything in your website, all 700 pages. So it's much easier. So it's a separate file, .css. In our head section where we give rules, we link it to that page, and we only need to update that one CSS file to make changes across our entire website. So it contains only style rules. It's not like an HTML document where we say doc type HTML, language, English, blah, blah, blah. These are simple. We just jump right into the rules. We don't even start with style, open style, closed style. We just jump right to the rules on this document, okay? So here's how it would look on a 4-page site. All of these would reference a CSS page called site.css, and in that would be a document of all the rules that they need to follow. So all the pages in your website would be associated with that one external sheet. What we need to do in our head section is have a link tag that says where to go get the style sheet. It's a void element, which means there's only one of them. It doesn't close at the end, like some other tags that we've used, like meta doesn't close. So it goes up in the header section, and it has to have a few things in it. Link is the opening tag, and then rel, what is it related to? It's a style sheet, so we have that in quotes. And then that href, remember that, like telling it where to go find it, is the actual name of the CSS file. That's how we're going to do this. So if this were the actual CSS page right here, and it only had one rule, and it said the background color should be, let's say that that's pink, and the text color should be white, that would be the rule for every single page that references this CSS file. And every single page at the top would have this one line. Now, think about that. If you have 700 pages, you have to go in and put this at the top of 700 pages. But you do this when you build your site. So it's on your very first page, and then you guys know how you've been making pages 2 and 3, how you copy the first page and just update the guts of it. All that other stuff is already there. The link to the style sheet's already there. The information for the search engines is already there. Your name, your navigation, your footer's already there. It's only the middle section that you're changing out page by page. So you don't do this retroactively. You do this as you build. You build your first page, and it has the link to the style sheet. Every page you build after that is ready to go. So let's pop to page 113 in your handout, and we're going to work on this. All right. Okay, we're not doing this with this trillion page, so if you want to close out the index that we just worked on and go back to your starting file, let's first change our starting file. So whatever you guys have open that we did our first exercise with, first thing we're going to do is take out all of the style rules that we have embedded or inline here, so clear those out. So we just have a plain old body tag, and clear out the heading 1 style that's inline, and clear out the paragraph style that's inline. And we're going to change this example. The title is going to be External Style Sheets. And heading 1 is going to be External CSS. And then we're just going to have a paragraph on it that reads, this page uses an external style sheet. Period. Okay, right now, this is just a simple HTML document. If I were to look at it in Chrome, it's boring, it's simple, it's the default basics that Google Chrome gives us. The only thing we have in here is a heading 1 and a paragraph. We are going to tell this to go use a style sheet that we have to build first. So let's build a style sheet. We're going to do a file, new. We're going to build a brand new sheet. And remember I told you with CSS files, there is no HTML, there's no opening style tag. We just start literally with the rules. So we'll write body, curly brace, background color, colon, hashtag 0000FF, semicolon, and the color, or the text color on this page is hashtag FFFFFF. And we're going to name this a specific name. We're going to do a file, save as. Okay, it's important that this has to be in the same folder as your starting file. So the file that I'm working on, that page that I just typed up in HTML, is inside my homework folder on my desktop. So that's where this CSS page has to go. So we're going to name this, let's call it style sheet. Ugh, can't type. .css. That's important, that's critical. Stylesheet.css, and click Save. I want to show you, here's what it looks like. Okay, so I have, in my folder called Homework, right now, I have 2 HTML pages, that one I'm going to get rid of, and I have a style sheet. So right now, this file and the style sheet live in the same folder, but they are not talking to each other. They don't know the other one exists, the rules aren't being applied. So back in your actual HTML document, yours is probably called index, mine is called starting file. Up in our head section, we need to tell it to use this style sheet. So we're going to do another new tag. So opening caret, and link is the code that we start with. And then we write rel equals, and then in quotes, style sheet. end quotes. And then href, where do I go find it? How do I get to it? Equals. And then in quotes, the literal name of your file. Stylesheet.css, end quote, end caret. I could have called my style sheet fun.css, and then in this example, I would just change this one word right here to be fun, just this one. Save it. Oh boy. That didn't work too well. What is wrong? Style sheet, href equals style sheet.
On your style sheet, one of your S is lowercase. Does that matter?
They're all lowercase. Is that what you mean up here in the title? Style sheet, CSS. Did you guys get it to work?
What is it supposed to look like?
Go to your style sheet, the top F's with the hashtag 00.
Thank you. Is that what you meant?
Yes. My head.
F. I thought you said S. My bad. All right, refresh. There we go. That's what it should look like. Background color should be blue. Text color should be white. I only had the background color screwed up by having too many F's in it. And my text color worked, but because it was white text on a white background, we couldn't see it. So, did you guys get that to work?
Mine did not.
All right, so open the Trillium folder and the index file. And again, from a few minutes ago, we put style on this page, but we did it as an embedded style, and that's not what we want for convenience. So we're going to do File, New, and we're going to make a new document, and we're going to name it File Save As, and we are going to call this one Trillium.css, Cascading Style Sheet, and then save. So we now have two tabs open in Notepad. We have our index page, and we have a blank style sheet. If we look at this in the folder view, we have our 3 HTML files and our 1 style sheet inside here. Right now our style sheet is blank and the pages don't know that it exists, so that's what we have to fix. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our index page, and this part that's in the style tags, we're going to take it and move it into our CSS page. But remember, we don't need the style tags themselves. So just copy, highlight and copy the rules for body, H1 and H2. Control X to cut it out. Switch to your CSS and paste it in there. So here are the rules on our CSS page. I'm just playing with the tabs to make it easier to read. So in our CSS, we have a rule for the body, a rule for the H1, and a rule for the H2. And we need to save that file. We can now pop back to our index page, and we can remove these 2 style tags from the head section because they're not needed anymore. We don't have any rules going on about style here. It's all external. So take those out. And at this point, I want to show you, you don't have to do this, I'll just show you, what we've done is we've pulled out the style, and it's back to looking boring like it was before. We have a style sheet, but we haven't linked to it yet. We haven't told the page that it exists. So that's what we need to do now. In the head section, where style used to be, we're going to add the code link, and that's going to tell it that there is a style sheet. And you can put these in either order. You can do the href or the rel first. They're opposite in the handout now compared to what we just did. It doesn't matter. So rel equals, in other words, what is it? It's a style sheet. And then where is it? Href equals, and then the actual name of the file. So it has to be spelled exactly the same way you spelled it before. And then close with your caret. So this tells it that there's a style sheet in the same folder called trillium.css. Go get it and go use it. Click Save. And now, when you run it, all those style rules are applied again.
Gosh.
Now all you need to do is open the other two pages in this website. So File, Open up Contact and Services. So we now have all 4 tabs open. And then from your index page, the one you just did, we're going to copy this line of code that tells it that there's a style sheet. And we're going to paste it in the head section on those other 2 pages. So on our contact page, we're going to paste it in and hit save. And on our services page, we're going to paste it in up in the head section and hit save. So all 3 of our HTML pages have this same line that tells it to go to the style page. Our style page works. Again, if you're working in Notepad++, you can see how the actual terms here are kind of, at least in my case, are like a light bluish purple. If you ever spell those wrong, they go to black. Do you see how that happened? So that's also a good way. If you're looking at your code and you expect it to be purple and it's not, there's usually a typo in it. So if all 3 pages are updated with the link, and if your style sheet works, when you view your website, whoops, I just viewed my style page. That's what's going on here. When you view your web page in Chrome, this is what you get, and all 3 pages have been stylized with our new rules. So that is where we're going to take a break, and I will help you guys troubleshoot if anybody has any issues right now.